I want to introduce a guest first who's been on this program many times before, and there was some news circulating by real estate agents, several days ago saying, hey, the Fed has cut the interest rate to 0%, time to buy a house. And I posted something on my Facebook page about, agents, please stop telling people that the interest rate is now 0%. And so I want to just have, some perspective here. And who better to do that than Derek Goulette of Fairway Independent Mortgage Company. Derek, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thanks for having me today.
Hey, my pleasure. So a lot going on in the world right now. And I want to focus on this first because people obviously have a multitude of concerns, whether it be health related or, am I about to make a poor financial decision if I buy or sell a house? And so I want to kind of first help people better understand what is the impact to them by reading something like the Fed cutting rates to nearly 0%. How does that impact them, and kind of build a little story around that for people to understand? And I know you're a smart guy, but you got to keep it somewhat reasonable for people to understand and try not to get too technical, because I have the same problem. I understand the market very well, but sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. So I had to add that caveat, but ready to go.
Yeah, I love to, when I start talking to people, I say, oh, let me not talk mortgage geek for a minute. So the short answer and the quickest explanation for the Fed cut to zero, what it directly impacts to a consumer on day one is really credit card payments for the average consumer and anyone with an equity line that's outstanding. So those people will be directly impacted day one by the Fed cutting prime rate and the federal funds rate to zero. Now, the mortgage market kind of does not move in correlation to the federal funds rate because you and I have talked about this a few times. The federal funds rate, what that really does is it is the amount of interest that the Federal Reserve charges banks to borrow money overnight to meet their deposit requirements. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the rate on like interbank loans, which are negotiated by individual banks and usually stay pretty close to the target rate or the federal funds rate.
Correct. Yes. And so, this week, which I think you're, based on some conversations you and I have had, you'll get into this, but about a week ago, 10 days ago, we were still locking interest rates in the low threes. And when the Fed made that emergency cut, we actually kind of saw a pullback in mortgage rates.
Meaning rates went up.
Rates went up, yeah. And there's two main factors in that. One has to do with supply and demand. And demand, when rates were at 3%, was through the roof, and lenders couldn't keep up, so they started raising rates artificially. And then when the Federal Reserve made their comments of why they did the emergency cut, it did leave a little uncertainty as far as what the long-term prognosis for interest rates were.
Gotcha.
Am I making sense, or am I talking too in depth?
No, it's making sense to me, and I think it would make sense to most. Here's the thing. It really depends on the content that people are reading or subjecting themselves to online, the sources of that information. And of course, I realize the irony that in being a talk show host, but there are so many different, I guess, ways in which people are interpreting this or projecting what's going to happen and what that actually means for people, that it's worth saying that there's a lot that we don't know right now. This is fairly uncharted territory for us.
Correct. Yeah, we've never, short of 2008, which is not like today in any way, shape, or form, we haven't had movement, meaning, interest rate fluctuation like we're experiencing currently in about 12 years. So like you just said, it's kind of uncharted territory. And then you also touched on it, does it make sense to buy or sell right now? That's all depends on your individual situation, which you're great at answering those questions. So
yeah, I don't think that we have enough. I think we have to be very careful to compare this to 2008 because the dynamics are totally different. Now, the impact that it might have on the market could be somewhat similar, and we still have plenty of time to kind of quote unquote turn this thing around. Part of which is, directly proportional to our ability or inability to, practice social distancing and be smart about how we, interact with other people in the world by doing things like quote unquote flattening the curve and staying at home and staying out of bars. Give me a break, people. Can't you just stay home and drink at home like the rest of us?
Yeah, it costs less money too.
Yeah. And the reality is my business skyrocketed when the market crashed in 2008. I know how to navigate a down market for myself, for my real estate company and team, and for my clients. And so there are certain things, of course, that we're telling people to watch out for right now and not to overreact. But a lot of people are just, asking the generic question of, so what does all this mean for the local real estate market? And I'm going to get into that in detail throughout the course of this show. But I guess one of the questions that I'm getting right now is, hey, is it still a good time to refinance, or should I wait?
Well, I think that there's, a few factors that play into that. What does the overall picture look like for you, and what's your goals in the refinance? And so, if you have a lot of consumer debt, car payments, credit cards, and you have equity in your house, it might make perfect sense to go ahead and refinance and take the cash out, lock in today's low rates. If the goal in the refinance is to simply save money every month, it's probably better to take a cautious wait, watch, and see approach. Get the process started with a lender you know, like, and trust, and from there be able to execute on a day when the lock becomes favorable. Mm-hmm. Does all that make sense?
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing. If you do want to refinance right now, or if you just want to buy a house in general right now, I would have to imagine, Derek, that this is probably the busiest you've been in years right now.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we as real estate agents, of course, need to build proper expectations with our clients and have that be reflected contractually so that we're protecting you throughout the process of buying or selling a house. And so it is taking more time than normal, right? And appraisers are more backed up than normal, right? So what do you think is a realistic amount of time for somebody to account for if they want to buy a house right now?
So that's an interesting question because the company I work for has chosen to always prioritize purchase. But that being said, in general, you should probably have an expectation of 45 days currently on a purchase and something slightly longer than that on a refinance. Just okay. Because, I think people in general put a family has to move by a certain date ahead of a refinance because the person's already in the home. Sure.
What are some other things that you're seeing that you would want people to know about as it relates to, even over the past week, some of the changes that we've seen? What's important that I'm not asking you that you want to share?
I guess the biggest thing to remember, keep in mind, is that right now, rates that you saw even yesterday might not be the same as of today. And so when you call people and ask for rate quotes and hear that your friend, got a 2.875 30-year fixed 15 days ago, just understand that probably doesn't exist today. And it might not come back for, who knows, 3 to 6 months. I think long term, I think that rates will be back at the level they were at 2 weeks ago. I just think that we need to get through the just understanding some of the data and the impacts of the data from just the national news of COVID-19. And so, if you call somebody you know, like, and trust in the mortgage space and they quote you a rate and you like it, given the volatility, meaning how much things are moving, you might want to take it, because if you call back 3 hours later, it might not be there. And we've experienced that a couple of times this week alone.
So it's, kind of overarching theme here is that it's fairly safe to say that because of the risk associated with the unknown impact of the data that we're really kind of yet to collect, as a result of that, interest rates are a little higher.
Correct.
Or one of the reasons why interest rates are a little higher.
Yes, one of the reasons, correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else you want to share before I let you go, Derek?
No, I mean, we're here to help. We want to serve you well. So, feel free to get in touch with Brian and he can connect us. Or again, reach out to somebody you know, like, and trust. Because now more than ever, you need a trusted professional to guide you through all of these changes that are coming in the mortgage market and housing space as a result. So, yeah.
Well, I can tell you guys that Derek does a fantastic job for people that our team serves. In fact, he's featured on our website. So, Derek, I want you to give your contact information, but I also want to add that he is easily accessible by just going to our real estate company's website, which is listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. But if somebody wants to reach out to you directly, Derek, how do they do that?
Best way is phone, and that's area code 949-280-8044. That's area code 949-280-8044.
Derek, I really appreciate your time, and I know that we'll, of course, be in touch probably multiple times a week as things continue to, come out and we wrap our heads around how that's going to impact our clients. So thanks again, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, you as well.
All right, folks, we'll be right back with more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And remember, if you want to reach out to me and have a private conversation about, your plans, how what's going on in the world right now might impact you, or if you see there might be some opportunity for you. We have plenty of folks that are still transacting. We've sold, 6 homes in the past 6 days. So there's still plenty of activity out there. We just want to make sure it's the right decision for you and your family. So if you'd like to reach out to me, my number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. And again, my website is listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or send an email to brian@brianbeattyteam.com. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.